I'm Jill V. Go ahead, Don. John Holgate,
Howard Matz.
John, you here?
John Kitchener. Here.
And staff is Sue,
Sue Carmel.
and we have, is that Preston?
Yeah, I'm here, guys. Sorry, I've been sick the last couple of days, so I'm at home. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
He's on mute. See that button up on the top? Can you click on that mute button there? Or is that his?
I think it's usually says ask to unmute, remember? Sue, can you hear us still?
We couldn't right after Preston spoke. It was quiet, so I don't know if you guys were talking.
No, the mic was off here,
Got it.
Yeah.
but now Art's mic is off.
No, Art's mic shows.
I'm here.
Okay, you can hear us? Okay, and Maria? Is that you, Maria?
Maria, you're muted.
Maria?
Here, sorry.
Brian, you're here? Brian Turbot?
In attendance.
You should
Okay,
just stay.
thanks.
He said it was too cold.
I know.
It is cold in here.
Yeah, be glad you're not here, there's no heat, we're going. This meeting's being audio video recorded, can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
And I'm an aye,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and in public comment, is everyone on public comment? Close public comment, and we have Art here and Preston and Maria from the airport. Is Noah gonna join us, Art? Or-
No, I'll speak for Arthur. He is not joining.
Okay. All right, so I don't know if anybody wants to keep talking about the request, or if you all have any new information, Art. But I'm happy to open it up for people who have questions, or if you wanna keep discussing the proposal.
Well, I have some questions then. I
Okay,
don't know if Art, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, so I went in historically into our Rory's from the past to, because I'm kind of confused. And I think you could help me maybe. So I found a Rory from 2023, and it was for $3.8 million. And I think it's for the construction of the housing. And it was approved. And then I went into another one from 23. So I was looking at 2301. By the way, the first one is called the Nobodere Farm Road Housing Development Phase 2 Construction. The first one is Nobodere Farm Housing Development Design OPM. And that you call phase 1. So you say phase 1 design was 1.2 million and construction is expected to be 5.5, but it was not in this design one from 23. And then you have two phase 2 ones. The one I mentioned first and the second one for $6 million for a total of 9 million too. Is it that, I'm not sure, is the 6 plus the 3.8 adding up to 9 million too?
I'm not quite following you there. I don't think so. My recollection, and maybe Maria can help. And of course, we've had some change in staff. That was, I think, primarily done by the previous finance director. But no, my understanding is that this phase 2 request for the 6 million is the total for the townhouse project.
And yet the one from 2023 is titled phase 2 construction. And that would be for the construction of employee housing for 4 dwelling units and consisting of 1,320 foot square buildings, I guess. So you're building 650 square foot units. You're building 2 of them in each building. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that total was 3.885 million.
So again, I'm going off of memory here, but I think that that wasn't enough money, and the 6 million is why we're here now, because following what we did in the interim was we've been working on the dorm projects, which I believe helped to, and of course, there's been, rapid escalation of construction costs in the last couple of years. So I believe that the 6 is an update from the 3.8, and maybe Maria or Brian could confirm that, but that's my recollection. The long and the short, we're here asking, I think the total is the 6 that we've provided, I think an extraordinary amount of information to try to address all the questions from the previous meetings.
You certainly did, and I'm just confused, and I'm sorry that I'm confused. I'm sorry to use up your time.
Oh, please don't apologize. I mean, I'm here to try to hopefully answer these questions, I hope.
So I see phase 2 funding and of 3.885, and I see supplemental funding of 6 million for a total of 9.2. I don't see 9.2, I see 9.885. You don't have it in front of you, I know, but I don't understand why it says an even 9 million too.
I'm sorry.
May I just jump in? Are you looking at the initial request? Because what we approved at town meeting was 3.8 initially for the dorm construction, and then we had an authorized supplemental for 3.2.
And that takes you to 6 point, but then I don't understand how you get to 9.2 if your new request is
So
6. Where's
we
the other
have-
3?
We have 2 articles. The first article was from annual town meeting in 2022.
Got it.
And it's the design and the OPM, and it was for $1,152,000.
Got
That's
it.
what it was approved. And then we had a second article. The original request and authorization was for $3,885,000,
Got it.
and then supplemental authorization that was approved of $3,200,000.
So you, on the sheet that you submitted for 25-001, it's not really 9 million too, it's really 6 million plus 3.2 million plus 3.885 million. Is that right?
So let me look at this.
I can answer that if you'd like me to.
Please.
The total
So
project is what we're looking at, we're not,
Yeah,
because
the
now,
whole-
I'm gonna go into the, what it was spent for, because I think I know what it was spent for. There are a couple things that are called phase 2. And to me, phase 2 is a building or a scope like townhouses or dorm or something like that. So it seems like we've got a phase 1 design, a phase 2, which was these 2 1,320 square foot buildings. Then we need more money, and now we're on to phase 3. We're really not on phase 2 anymore for funding, I think, but I don't understand.
So to clarify the breakdown in the total cost, Maria, quoted all of those correctly.
Yes,
When it was set up in Plum, it's under 2 different project numbers. So that's why, Howard, you're seeing the 6 million plus the original 3.2 under project 25-011.
but that would really be phase 3. We don't understand this, and we're trying to piece it together, and it seems to me it's not phase 2, it's really another phase.
That's, the phases should be designated by how the airport signifies is what phases they believe it is. I can't control how that gets labeled. I mean, I can if we need to specify that better, but dollar amounts are under 2 different projects.
They are, so it looks like, again, the 3.2 and the 3.8, were then, if I'm correct, for dormitory project and for a 1,320 square foot building with 4 units in it. Are they the same or are they different?
They're different. My understanding is, from now on, again, I was in this position when all of this was submitted to the Capital Program Committee. But my understanding is the 2 initial articles that we have approved so far are for the dorm construction only. And what we are looking for now is for the townhouse.
Okay. Great. So far I have 3.2 million for 4 units. And then I have 3.8 million for townhouses, which would contain 2 units side by side. So is it 2 townhouses with 2 units, or is it 2 townhouses with 1 unit inside?
Arthur, I would defer this one to you.
2 with 2.
So it's 2 townhouses and 4 units. And then you're asking for more money for the dorm.
No, the dorm is already, the dorm isn't even part of this equation. All of the funding for the dorm is the 1152, the 3.885, and the 3.2. That is the dorm project in its entirety.
So
All they're
literally-
asking for in this project is the 6 million for the 2 townhouses.
Okay, so taking what you said, the 3.2 was for 4 units. There were 2 1320 buildings. And the 3.8 was for 2 townhouses of 4 units. And that was, and then this money now is new money.
The 6 million is new money. The 3.2 and the 3.885 are all for the project that is currently ongoing right now at the site.
Okay, so your total project cost is not correct then, right? Because it's really 3.2 plus 3.8 plus.
No, well,
one
I think that I think, Howard, where the problem is that unfortunately, I think the airport lumped these in a different way than we ideally would have done it. I would not have called the 6 million for the townhouses phase 2, because that is somewhat confusing, given the way that they had done it before. I would have called the 3.885 not phase 2. I would have called that phase 1 supplemental funding. And then phase 2, I would have, we would have added the 3.2 to the supplemental funding for phase 1 so that this flows a little easier, because this is a completely different. I think this is a completely different project than the dorm that they're already built, that project that's already going. This was going to be completely multiple different phases, and I think that they used a naming convention that is somewhat confusing to the committee, because it looks like we're continuing to add on to the costs that are already incurred for the project that's currently in development and construction. And this is a completely separate project, phase of the project, and has nothing to do with the phases that have already been approved. Does that make sense?
It totally does. So in the request that's up now for $6 million, the total is 9.2, and really the total for this phase is 6.
Is 6, yeah.
The 9 is an incorrect number there.
The 9 is an amalgamation of the supplemental that was for the prior project and the 6 million, and that is not correct.
So what I think we're trying to do is put phase 1, phase 2, or phase 2.5 in a spreadsheet to be able to put down the cost of that unit, how many units are there, how many bedrooms are there, and how many square footage is there, so we can find out what the thing really cost.
So the first phase allocation is what, 3.2 and 3.8 is 7,085,000, right? And then you have 1152 on top of that. So that's just under 8.2 million, if my rounding in my
yes,
head.
that's correct.
Okay.
And but that had infrastructure in it, remember, and it also
had all the infrastructure related to sewer and power being brought into the facility. Yes, that is correct.
So if we forget that, then we have about, if I'm right, we have about $7 million for 4 buildings, which are 8 units in total. And where I don't really know what all the square footage is for the $3.2 million to find out what the cost per square footage, cost per unit is, cost per bedroom is.
Well, we can do it a different way if you want, since I'm here. We can,
So it seems like some of this art is nomenclature. It's just, some of it's just
Well-
bad labeling.
so here's what I
Guys.
would suggest to you, okay? Is that we have a contract with Pearl Construction for the building of the, I'm gonna call it phase one. I hope I don't confuse anybody, okay? But the currently
Right.
in development project
Yeah,
with
that's
Pearl
good.
Construction, who is the builder of the modular. That contract is for $6,215,532
Right.
for the construction of the construction and installation of the modular buildings. Okay, if we want to look at what the cost is to construct, I mean, we can add in all the other soft costs if you want, but that's the actual contract for the boxes to come to be delivered to the site and installed, well, built, delivered, and installed on site.
I would, from my personal professional experience, add the soft costs into the total cost to come up with a total project cost.
That's fine, we can do that.
Per bedroom, per square foot, and per unit.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, at some point, when this kind of part of the discussion is over, I'd like to approach this a different way, and I have the documents in front of me, but let Brian and Howard finish this, but I'd like to come at this a little differently, if I may, later on.
Super. And then phase two, because we're gonna call it phase two, Brian, like you suggested, is $6 million, not 9.2. And for $6
Correct.
million, the infrastructure is already paid for, I believe. So 6 million is primarily for housing, and it is for a dwelling unit of 2 to 3 bedrooms, 3,600 square feet. I guess there are 2 units in the side-by-side configuration. So from what I recall, although the text doesn't say it, there are 4 units there.
No, that's not true. I'm looking at Noah's email fairly recently, October the 17th,
Mhm.
and he says, I am asking for 6 million in authorization to design and construct a townhouse with 2 dwelling units. Each dwelling unit to contain 2 to 3 bedrooms. So there is 1 townhouse, 2 dwelling units, each with 2 to 3 bedrooms. That's
6.
what the 6 million is.
So.
And I'm reading this straight
Yeah,
from his email.
thank you, because it's not clear in this text here.
Well, I'm reading it from his email. If you want to
Perfect.
pull it up,
No,
I
I
think-
agree with you.
Brian, I think you got this also on October 17th.
So how is it that if the infrastructure was paid for under a previous phase, is there infrastructure in this $6 million?
I
Because
can
Noah
answer
said-
that.
No, I thought Noah said that there was.
There is, so the infrastructure that was run into the dorm doesn't go all the way to the townhouses. So you've got to, so yes, the townhouse, I mean, the dorm project had significant cost because of that sewer line, deep sewer line that had to go in Nobodere Farm Road, night work, extra cost. Now we're into the site, but you still have to extend that. You're going to have infrastructure work to run sewer, water, cable, electric, communications, all to then the new structure. So there's still more infrastructure. It's a leapfrog, if you will, an extension. So it will be nowhere near, I think, what it was for the dorm, but there's still certainly infrastructure costs that's going to be associated with the project.
Thank you. So it's very difficult to attribute to phase 1 or phase 2. Maybe easier for phase 2, what the infrastructure costs are specifically for phase 2, but for phase 1, some of it is huge amount of infrastructure for the whole development, and some of it is specifically for the phase 1 set of buildings. So I'm not sure how we do it apples to apples, but it would be useful to have that.
If I may, Madam Chair, through you.
Of course, Art.
I think that Noah laid that out pretty well in his letter of December 1st. I hope that you received on the, we knew this was the information you wanted. I think it's the third page where he did the chart that lays out the modular, the site work, the OPM.
Forgot about that. I apologize.
And
But
I
it'd be nice to have
I
this all-
understand how confused, but I think that's the first chart that I really saw that broke down, I think, direct to your questions. And so maybe that, and then you compared it to the housing departments,
Yeah.
and they hadn't, the numbers they were originally given, I think, hadn't included all of that. And we tried to bring those together to give you more of the apples to apples.
In my 40 years plus of professional experience in the finance industry, I've never not seen a summary spreadsheet with everything on it related to the entire single project that we might have been looking at.
Well, this chart looks pretty close. I mean, I know, on.
But phase
uh,
one's not there. So I can do it, but I'm not paid to do it.
I don't know what else you need.
I need a total spreadsheet showing all of the housing for phase one, phase two, and the associated infrastructure. Shouldn't take much time. But I'm not using my time. Because I have another job.
That makes two of us.
Great.
Okay, now I'm done, and I know, John, you have some things you want to say.
Yeah, and it's good that Brian's on. I want to take this a different way, if I may. Kindly, I guess, sat through our whole of our last Capcom meeting. And it was kind of fortunate that you did, because you heard Christy Ferrantella lay out their application, which is going alongside yours, for fiscal year 26. And I need to, I have all this, and Jill can send it to you if you'd like it, but if it's my turn, I need 10 minutes to speak.
Nobody interrupted you.
So, Madam Chair, do I have it?
Yeah, John, nobody interrupted you. I think.
Okay.
Feedback.
Okay, all right. So if you look at the town application for Waite Drive, and Christy Ferrantella has done an incredible amount of work on this. So these are not costs from, a year ago or 2 years ago. They're today. And what they're looking for is, in the first phase of Waite Drive, is 9 dwelling units, 25 bedrooms, spread over 3 single-family homes and 3 duplex units at a cost of $12.3 million. That's $492,000 per bedroom. And you heard Christy outline that project. It's a good one. It's mixed units. It's designed to grow with the families and so forth. It's a good one. They're using a good developer. They've looked at recent costs from Habitat and so forth. And so that $492,000 a bedroom, I think, is a kind of a good 2025 benchmark for what housing should cost. So, you can, I'm sure we can send you the details of all of that, but just keep that in mind. Then, we go to the phase 2 application, and I just read you the bottom part of it from Noah. This is $6 million for 1 duplex structure with 2 dwelling units with a maximum of 6 bedrooms. That's $1 million per bedroom. This is so far away from what a good development that is going on at the same time that it's just not reasonable. And, I think, Art, you can see for this committee to say, on the one hand, it's okay to build something at 492,000 bedroom in a very nice development,
That was part of the problem.
but because it's the airport, it's $1 million a bedroom. That's just not good. And what I think, and then there's a third part of this, because I just want to have my say one time. We saw a proposal, I think it was, I'm new to this, so forgive me, but I think it was last year when the McFarland Johnson put a proposal in, you guys put it in from them, and it showed 12 dwelling units on that lot, that buildable lot. And so, and there's a drawing of it, and we can send you the drawing of it. So, on the one hand, this phase 2 is extremely expensive. And on the other hand, as well, we could put more buildings there for firefighters and police officers. And I would, I've sat down now a couple of times with Chief Casper and Chief Cranston. I'd really encourage you, Art, if you could, just go spend, an hour with the two of them, because they are facing a critical situation for themselves and for our town. And, their first responders are an integral part of the airport first responding. If you have any kind of emergency over there, you can't handle it on your own. You're going to need Chief Casper, and you're going to need Chief Cranston, and they need your help, our help, to get some kind of units for their people. But they can do a lot better job of explaining it than I can. So I just think that we should step back a little bit, understand why, an affordable housing unit on Nobodea Road is $1 million a bedroom, when in a nice development closer to town, it's $492,000. And can't we kind of come together, maybe talk to the developer of the Waits project, and kind of transplant some of that over there? Because, what I'm telling you so far is fact. What I'm going to say now is not fact. And so, I don't want to be held to this. But everything I hear is that Pearl are losing business in the private sector because they're too expensive, let alone, the public housing sector. So, I just would ask you to maybe take a breath here, Art, and look at the development company builder that's doing Waste Drive, and see if there's a way that, this money could get spent differently and perhaps a little bit more, that would give you what you need for the airport, but also for your partners in the fire department and the police department. And I would be the first one to sign up for that. And I think a couple of my colleagues here would. But it's just, if we don't step back from this and take a different tack, I just don't think this is, well, it certainly would not get my vote the way it is. And, I just hope that you would step back from this, take a look, talk to your Chief Casper, Chief Cranston, and see if there isn't a way to make this a win-win for everyone, leveraging what the town and Christy Farentella have already done to lay the groundwork for a very similar project. And as I said, and then I'll stop, the McFarland Johnson plan that was put before the Capital Committee, I think a year ago, clearly shows at least 12 buildings. So, you know, I'm asking for a step back, guys. So let me open it up to anyone else that, you know, but that's my point of view.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thanks. So first of all, there's been no development at Waite Drive. We have no contractors, we have no OPM, we have no design firm at all. We had Griffin Architects do a very conceptual plan of what it could look like. And we have discussed the construction cost with various OPMs to get something. There's nothing done with that project. So what was done was just a conceptual plan of what it could look like on the development. It has no, there's nothing, we have not engaged anybody to do design. We have not actually gone out to bid for any boxes or anything. So that number could change dramatically by the time, if funding were to be approved at town meeting. It could change dramatically between now and town meeting and when we go out to bid, because once the money, if that project is approved through the committee and town meeting and the ballot, then we have to go out for request for qualifications for an OPM, and then we have to follow designer selection law and get a architectural firm to do the layout of the boxes, and then we have to actually engage the firm that would build the boxes and design it and install it. So that number, admittedly, they put a lot of work into it, but it very well could change depending on the climate and the environment that we're in. I believe that the actual total ask is for $14 million, which includes the estimate for OPM and design work associated with that project. I know that everybody wants to put police and fire on the airport property, but every time we have this conversation, every time we talk to the airport attorneys, we always get reminded of the fact that that puts at risk all of our grant assurances because of the unique usage under federal and state statutes, which do really prohibit us from putting anybody out in those buildings. If we wanted to use any of that parcel for police and fire, and if the airport wanted to let us do it, correct me if I'm wrong, Art, but I believe they would be obligated to charge us fair market rent for the value of the land that we're using. And as an example, we wanted and had numerous discussions over a period of a year or two, again, Art can correct me if I'm wrong, about citing the DPW facility at Delta Fields. And we would have had to lease the land for the DPW facility from the airport because it's airport land. And that would have cost almost $300,000 a year to lease. So I completely agree that we need housing for police and fire, but I do not believe that the airport is a viable option for us to be building on because of the constraints under state and federal law relative to the usage of airport and the land that they own and control.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, may I respond?
Yeah, Art, can you not hear me?
Oh, I could hear you now. So
Go ahead.
thank you. Mr. Kitchener, we're on the same page, the same team, the town, you know, and Mr. Turbot was exactly correct. And I'm not sure if you've seen the emails and correspondence just from the last couple of days, even from the manager providing all of those links. I know it would be a lot of information, but
It's not useful.
there is an awful lot of other communities that have also tried to, you know, utilize airport, you know, property to solve housing situations for the municipality. I've had extended discussions with our council while we had a bit of an opening in the authorization that even allows us to do the housing on this property at all, should we have, I think, an empty unit that perhaps could be used for a first responder. The opinion that we got, and I believe was forwarded to you from Airport Council, was in no, uncertain terms that we couldn't just build a dedicated unit that would be for those other entities. I think we all understand the housing, but I'd like to just take this back. We need airport housing for airport employees that we're currently losing. And as much as you want to take a step back from this, I want to move forward with it. And I urge you to please support this. The numbers are there. We are not, to the point about Pearl Construction that was made, they responded to an RFP. They're not a developer that we just chose and said, this is who's going to do it. We went through the public procurement process. They may not build the next phase. That phase is going to go through the procurement process as well. And that's also going to ultimately set what is paid for this. We're trying to provide you with an all-in cost to not come back for more. I am absolutely fiscally conservative and do not want to spend $1 of IC airport revenue as taxpayer money and public money. And, this is we'll only spend what we need to accomplish the goal of providing housing that's desperately needed for the airport employees and that we're losing. And, I don't think we can really step back from this. I really feel that we need to move forward. And I hope that, and then the plan that you were referring to from McFarland Johnson had been provided for two reasons. I think we hit on this last time, but we are within, estimated priority habitat for rare and endangered species subject to MESA and permitting with Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. So they have an anti-segmentation clause. So you have to show everything that you might do on a particular property. That was part of the environmental permitting. Also, I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Kickham last year, the year before, we've been doing, well, wait a second, we want to make sure you're not coming into this piecemeal. And so we showed, we worked that out as what could a full development sort of look like. And we're working our way in as well, with all of that in mind, trying very much to do this in the most fiscally responsible manner. And then to the point of, well, use it and then go more and build even more. I'll take it back. The airport still has to pay for all of this. This is all, we're not asking for any kind of taxpayer subsidy, enterprise subsidy. This is all being done, and this is not receiving grants. This is all being done with airport revenue based on rates and charges, based on, that we review on an annual basis. Again, very much with the goal, my goal from day one has been to, keep the airport in the black. It's not a for-profit. It's just to remain, so that we also are not a burden on the town and provide the required services. So I hope that I really genuinely hope that we could get the support of this committee to move forward with the project. The costs, I think that Noah did a good job. He put a lot of time into that last letter to try to break down, there were differences between the housing, the town's housing numbers and our numbers. And when you really start to put them all together, they're really not that far apart. And ultimately, it's going to be subject to procurement and, what it costs. We're not trying to build anything that is, opulent or extravagant. This is to provide, but at the same time, I think it's always important to remember when we're doing these kind of municipal projects, they also need to hold up and stand the test of time. We're building things that I hope are going to last, what design lives of, 30, 40, 50 years type projects. So, they are built to a higher standard, but I don't think they're in any way, being built luxurious, if you will. So I hope that helps and you can maybe see that perspective. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Now,
I'm not a lawyer, but I've read a lot of legal documents, and this letter from the law firm doesn't exactly say what you said. It does say that you can apply to the FAA and you can ask them. And it does define residential not as firefighters and policemen. And its primary goal is to protect potential private homeowners from complaining and filing cases against the airport and the FAA. But in this case, it's a little bit different. So that's why I asked last week about what this memo says that we can do, and it doesn't say anything that we can do, it just says what we can't do. And I think that it's worthwhile to make a foray into the FAA and ask them the question about this. And I don't think that anybody's suggesting that this property be, that any particular units be designated like you had suggested. I think we're trying to just fill the place up with a number of permitted employees by their type of their jobs and ask the FAA to condone that.
We still have to pay for it. You know, I mean, this first unit that we're trying to ask for the money today for is gonna be filled with airport employees, and
No argument about what you're saying there.
we're desperate for the housing. I guess I don't know how
No
else. to put
argument
it.
about that either. But I would note that I read Noah's memo a few times, and he keeps coming back to the concept of midpoint. And he bases, so he's got a high number and a low number and a midpoint number, and he's basing his analysis on a midpoint. And it just befuddles me how we're working on such extreme, I mean, the high number is 50% higher than the low number. So I think that in its own says that the project is not particularly well conceived yet.
We need approval for the funding to move forward with all of the design and the next steps.
But you also want the construction funding too.
Yeah, we need housing. We're losing employees.
I think you need housing. We don't have any disagreement on that regard. We just have an issue with the cost of the housing, and we also have been asking you if you might reach out to the FAA, your council reach out to the FAA and see how far we can extend the parameters for the use of the housing for police and firefighters who in fact are town employees that support your airport.
But we're going nowhere here. The point is, the townhouse we're asking for right now is gonna be filled with airport employees. There's
Perfect.
still
And
more
John's-
room on this, and when we come back to you, if we're gonna do more housing, then we could look at it that way. But the project right now, right, we've got a limited scope. We've got to move forward and not just be stuck on what ifs and maybe more that we then couldn't even afford to build anyway.
We don't disagree. We want to help you do that. But when you're talking about $1,600 a square foot, expensive houses on this island don't cost $1,600 a square foot. Expensive houses right now, well detailed houses are in the range of $1,000 to $1,200. And those are with very high-end finishes. How you got to $1,600, I don't know.
I guess I would just say what's ultimate, we're not gonna spend it all, you know, it's gonna be based on when we go through a public procurement process, and there's plenty of checks and balances there, but it's making sure that we don't have to come back, run up short and not be able to then execute the contracts when the authorization isn't there.
Yeah, I wonder why we don't authorize a more meaningful, reasonable number that reflects current market conditions and then have you come back and ask for more money if we need more money. Because you found that the cost exceeded what we had originally budgeted.
Well, I think the problem there is the town meeting process on an annual basis.
I don't disagree with that either, but it's a huge amount of money. How is it that the cost of this development, which is what John's point is more than the cost of building a fine home?
John?
May I interject? I do worry a little bit about having a $6 billion number out there in regard to the procurement process, in terms of how the bids come in.
Right.
Because it does in everything else I'm seeing feel like an unrealistic number to me as well. However, I mean, then on the flip side, the airport is their own enterprise fund. So this isn't coming from the general fund.
But excesses do go to the
But-
general fund, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In theory, I
Yeah, I
suppose.
think you could,
But-
do you feel that if you ask for a larger number and then you say, oh, we're gonna spend less, like, what's the incentive to spend less if the larger numbers already out?
I mean, I think the airport commission and I mean, Art in particular as the chair is definitely gonna try and spend less.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah, they should, and they will.
But what's the incentive for the bidder to come in at a more realistic
I
number?
think that
Well-
you're presaging the prejudice of the contractor to say they got $6 million budgeted for this. I think maybe that's what you're saying. And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna bid this, you know, in the context of what I think is approved for it.
I think the check balance there is it's still the free market and it's a bid process. And if they want to win, they've got to be competitive, you know? So that's where you're going through, you know, you got multiple contractors, right? That are coming through to put a number in and they want to be the low guy and get the job.
Do we get many bids?
I think on this you'll get bids.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get bids.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the concern is if only one bidder comes in, but I think you'll get, for construction, you'll get more than one bid. So that is valid.
So may I, my conclusion to this, Art, is that you need this housing and we want this housing to be built. And we want to appreciate that the number that's being approved is a reasonable number, not an outside number of what it might be. And what I think would be helpful here is if you went back to the requests and labeled them properly and put the right dollar amounts in this so that we can then backtrack and audit this. And that you come up with a request that's not $6 million, but maybe is the midpoint number that Noah spent a whole lot of time hammering home on as the top number. Maybe it's somewhere between the $800 and the $1,200 midpoint. I don't remember what the exact numbers are. Let's put a more realistic number in there.
Yep, I agree.
Art, you wanna talk again?
Madam Chair, when would you have another meeting?
We
That,
have one on Thursday, actually, and then we'll have another meeting
Whenever-
next
Whenever
Thursday.
you need, we want to support you. So whenever
Yeah.
whenever you're ready, we're ready.
I guess we just have to try to look, I want to get there with this committee. That's why we're trying to go through this.
Thank
And,
you.
and, you know, I thought that this broke down the numbers pretty well, on the modular cost, but I'll try to see if we can refine it a little bit further. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I want you to know that we are, you know, our pencils are sharp as they could be, but it's not to, you know, that's really through the procurement process that ultimately decides that number. These are projections. And if we're short, we're stuck. That's the problem. And then Brian won't sign the contract or the town because the appropriation wasn't there. If we're $1 short of the appropriation, then the whole thing is stuck for a year. So as much as you want the pencil to be sharp and have it close, which I respect and understand, it's
There
this
will be a
municipal
fault.
process
Gonna be what?
There was gonna be.
Yeah.
that causes this, you know, where you gotta provide a buffer or you might lose a year.
I
Yeah,
mean, that is the unfortunate thing, but I think there will be a fall town meeting.
yeah.
Right. And in addition to that, I think
Did you hear that,
that
Art?
the town, that you could, in fact, I'm just asking, I'm not saying, allocate more money for it with the intent that that the airport take responsibility for it at the next warrant meeting after that, whatever time is appropriately called. I don't know how you got.
Well,
that.
I think this is why often in the past, the projects I've seen in the few years I've been on this committee, people come for the design money first and they don't come for the whole hog all at once. So they are approaching this differently than
They are.
other projects.
And he did last year too, if you recall.
Yeah, but he went through design and then he came back and he actually really changed what he was gonna do. You know, from doing homes to the dorm, they narrowed down to the dorm and that changed in the process as well, so. You know, I think that's what the design phase is kind of about, is the planning phase,
Right.
but.
And I think they're trying to expedite it a little bit, or fast track it, and I think it needs to be done maybe a little more carefully.
Yeah, it sounded to me that through that dorm project, they did narrow down on what they wanted to do, which was to do these 2 townhouses and then do Townsend House.
Right.
So that's, I think they did come up with their short-term, long-term plan.
So just have Art call you when he wants to talk.
Sure, or if you'll wanna change your, if you wanna update it with Brian or something, Art, that's fine, if you think that works for you, but, thanks for your time today. I know we've met a lot over this, and it's just everybody has their projects in a different order. And the way people talk about it is very
Yours is
different.
just more complicated.
It is.
It's just, we don't, when you're looking at a truck or you're looking at a piece of equipment or you're
It's-
looking at it's just simple. This is a huge dollar amount. It's got to have some contingency in there to give them some wiggle room, and it has to look reasonable.
Also, housing is a really sensitive subject on the island.
really
It's not just, it's not isolated to the airport, it's an island. So I think that's what we're all sensitive to, and I think that's one of the reasons this committee exists, is to look at the whole and not just the,
Right.
The parts. So, thanks everyone
Anyway,
for all your hard work on that.
thanks, Art. I'm sorry to belabor everything, but
Yeah.
we want to help you.
I appreciate it. I do. And then we're trying to get you what you need. We'll try to look at the numbers, I guess, a little bit closer and with respect to, it really seems like it's coming down to not so much to that like 4.5 number for the building itself, and not so much to the, all of the other numbers have been broken down in the in the letter that you just received. In a chart form. So anyway,
It was using a concept of midpoint, which I can't get my arms around.
all right. I'm not sure what else we're gonna do, but I'll keep trying.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
All right, everybody.
Well, I think we made some progress on this, and I think we need to make it happen and make it look right.
Yeah, well, otherwise they're not getting supported
Right.
by the town. I mean, I think that's what we wanna set them up to succeed. What we're trying to do here, and we all know that there's a housing problem, and they've got employees they have to house every bit as much as every other department that the town has. For that matter, other businesses.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would not be looking forward to the current headline of Capcom approve $1 million of bedroom affordable housing apartment. That number is just unrealistic for what, and not to open it all up again, but it's unrealistic. You can buy two, 3-bedroom houses in Mid-Island for less than that.
Very true.
We can't.
All right, next, is there any, we're gonna move on to the Rory review and deliberations. Does anybody want to talk about any other Rorys today? Otherwise,
I don't
our
really know where things are.
spreadsheet,
How do I? Where the ratings are.
you don't have that
Okay.
yet. You're gonna get
That's
that.
fine.
You're gonna get
As long
that.
as I'm not missing something.
Yeah, Brian and Sue were doing the averages and the standard deviation, and they're coming up with that, and they have a few more things to work on with that, and then we'll see that on Thursday. So the plan is Thursday to get the spreadsheet, look at it, we can see what's gonna go in the report, what's not. And we can talk about any of them on the list and go from there. And I know on Thursday, Dawn can only be with us for about 45 minutes, so whichever one she wants to talk about first, I'm gonna give her right of first refusal, so to speak.
Perfect. So there are two things. One, we went over 2 items last time that we needed to rate. And
The sewer.
can you remind, Sue, can you remind us the numbers of the 2 projects? Oh, do you? Because I don't, and I didn't want to go on.
Did mine today. Sewer like 19001
And on the other note, I really would like to everybody be encouraged to, like, if you have things you want to talk about specifically, so we can put notes together on them that would go in the final write-up
Okay.
that you would like to see.
19001
Uh-huh.
and 26001. both
And
of yours say-
26001 sewer. Okay, I'll do those tomorrow.
Yours are done.
You did yours.
The updated ones?
Well, you had submitted them already, so
Then I'm done.
Maybe you did them that day, because he was here.
Thank you.
I thought I had done mine, and she emailed me this morning, said, could you do them? So
Yeah,
I had
I
the
thought I
opposite
had.
problem.
I just didn't
two
think I did.
outstanding, but they were different too.
I looked at them, but I
Yeah.
never did.
Yeah.
John, anything else from you?
No, I'm good, thank you. I'm done, Sue, right, with all mine?
yes, everybody is now complete.
Okay, so we all have this down. We're gonna meet Thursday. We're gonna have the list. You can see what everything averaged out to be.
And we're gonna come up with some notes,
And we'll come up with some notes if people have them, and
just conceptually, we can rewrite them and
And
recirculate.
I was talking to Libby about probably slating this for the first select board meeting in January,
Okay.
which I think is like the
but not
7th or
for the,
something.
like, just for the big number and what's in
For-
it, not necessarily for the report.
You don't think the report will be ready?
I don't know.
I don't know, because
Okay.
we're now in December. I'm gone the last 2 weeks of December. That doesn't mean I don't work, but
And Pete is not.
That would be the
around.
8th, but we could always do it a different meeting. in January.
you know,
Should we go for that, maybe the meeting after that for select board?
why
That
don't we
gives us-
collect the notes and then go
And see how many you're
see
gonna
what
have.
Sue's
Yeah, see-
analysis says and
we're-
what people want to comment on, and then decide if we're close.
Okay,
It
That's
might be
fair.
close.
I'll just be in
Okay, yeah.
touch with Libby and.
We don't have a
Brooke
ton
about-
of notes in the report.
I don't think so. I think
it'll
we,
be ready.
not really. I can think of the maintenance tool storage building for DPW. I can think of this airport issue. I think there's a comment on security and computer being consistent across all of the different departments. So there's a consistency in the buying and but I can't offhand think of anything else.
Yeah, DPW, Arlen Home,
Oh, I
and
would
even
know.
town employee housing, because it's another big ticket. I mean, all in all, it comes to a lot of money. And so I think we are gonna have to make comments about anything, especially anything that we know is gonna go on the ballot.
Okay,
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say like the town employee housing and island home.
Yeah.
You know,
Because we're not hitting people
you
at
know,
the same
any
time.
thoughts that people have, but hopefully supporting it, but it's a lot of money.
'cause I don't remember anything else controversial in what we've looked at. Do you?
I didn't know when I looked at the list today.
And Sue, did you see anything that you want to remind us of?
No,
He's just gonna be too scared to remind us of anything, how we start like.
especially if you're targeting the first week of January, because typically the report is presented towards the end of January, so.
Let's go for the middle of January, John. But we'll know more on Thursday.
We'll get it done, no worries.
Okay, great. So we will see everybody Thursday at 3:00. And can I get a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
You gotta do roll call.
John,
Aye.
Jill's and I, Dawn,
Aye.
Howard, aye.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Art. Thanks, airport staff. Thanks everybody for being here. Have a great day.